thank you all again for coming, really appreciate it. A quick review of process before we start so everyone understands kind of the timing moving forward is, so last week if you weren't here, we did a review of all 17 proposals. We whittled it down to 3 concepts, and Sherry used our feedback from the meeting to think about some different ideas based on our feedback. So again, these are only concepts, they're only sketches. Let's not get tied to it, but we want to use this opportunity to get your feedback on each one and your thoughts so that she can further finalize things or throw things out or change things accordingly. From here, we may have an additional meeting like in July or August at some point, depending on when we're going to present to the school committee, so we can make sure you all see and feel comfortable with the finalists that will go to the school committee. That will likely happen in the September meeting, so we have a lot of time between now and then to think about these, to make, change things, make final touches on them, and I'll make sure everything, the finals go through this group, because you'll be making a recommendation to the school committee on, 3 or so proposals, and I want to make sure you all feel comfortable with all 3. So that's what the process looks like. Any questions on process? Okay. So what we're going to start very quickly, we're going to do a very short review of criteria, just to kind of bring us back to where we started last week. I've been sitting rolled up in my house for the last week, so I'm sorry about the crumpledness. But I just wanted to remind everyone what you kind of came to us with at the beginning of the meeting last week. We talked about criteria and we talked about what the logo should say to us. So I just want to circle back to that, and then we'll take a look at all the proposals, and Shari will lead us through kind of a theme exercise, like a likes, dislikes, must-haves, can't-haves for what we have here. And you can feel really free to say anything you want about this, any changes. There's no pride in ownership right now, or authorship right now for Shari, so I just want you to feel really comfortable. So for criteria, we talked about strong community, striving for the best, non-offensive, universal, depicts sports, but also this entire student body, something that you can be and dress up as, connected to the word Raider, red, white, and black, competitive, aggressive, strength, and unique. So that's kind of how we started the conversation last week. And then we want our mascot to say, because images tell us things, respect, welcoming, strong community, strength, classy, classic, modern, and classic and modern, good luck, and create an image in your mind. So does anyone have any thoughts they want to add to this before, or any reflections on the last week that they want to add to either of these? Okay. All right, so what I will do now is, you have all the images in front of you. I'm going to hand it over to Sherry, and she'll kind of walk us through a process of reviewing these and gathering your feedback.
Okay, so quick designer's note before I get into the nitty-gritty, just to sort of reiterate that these are concepts. They are rough sketches, and the way that the process usually plays out from here in design world, and many of you have probably been through it before, but we start with the big ideas, and we make sure that we have the smallest number of good ideas to move forward with, because then after that it gets to iteration and iteration. And I know that we're still going to be presenting a number of concepts to the town council, but
school committee.
I'm sorry, school committee. But we want to narrow it down from here, so that once we get to the point of nitpicking, something a little bigger, a little smaller, this line, that line, we're not trying to make iterations on still 10 different designs. Okay. And once we get further down the line in the design process, then it gets to more iterations. So it's an iterative process. I want to start with the big ideas and narrow it down from concept and also pieces. So the same way at the last meeting we were talking about, if you like one thing from one written concept and another thing from another, combine them, which you guys did with the Bobcat Wolf, awesome. So we can continue to do that merging and cross-pollination between these designs. Okay, So you guys have a sheet in front of you which has the numbers, sort of the coding. We don't have to go in order, and I would encourage you guys to, let's kind of popcorn up your ideas, your impressions, thoughts that came to mind as you were looking at these, particularly the first time, because those first impressions make a difference when it comes to logos. And I'll do my best to kind of put them into the right category, and you can help me if I'm going wrong here. And if your comments are about all of the logos in general, let me know. If they're about something specific, let me know which number or code, like if it's 4A, so that I can put a note next to it. There might have been something else I was going to tell you, but let's run with it.
I think a must-have is that you have the W in the logos. I noticed on the horse, on the main, you have kind of a W up top there. But yeah, right there, but just to make sure it's a little more prominent within those logos. And have we decided that it's going to be W, or are we going to do Radar? I guess Watertown W should be, I think.
Yeah, because we thought of Reading when we had.
Yeah, if you do an R, it'd be
Yeah,
great.
I think you
no,
want an
no,
R.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
You'd have to have the word.
How's that? Can't have the R, you must have the W. Okay. Great. What else?
I mean, if, concept number one, if you put a W at the top of the bobcat wolf versus just the red there, if you made that into a full W
On its forehead.
Yeah.
on its forehead, I mean, that would work as having a W on it.
So I was thinking of having a W behind it, either of the animals, so you can see pieces of it and then the animals in front of it, because I like the idea of having a W too. I don't know if it would work, but I was thinking of that with the fox, like having the W behind it, big, large behind it.
In like black or something, just.
Yeah, and then
So
you
you
only
see
see
the
sections
top.
of.
You'd have to see that,
Exactly.
you wouldn't see, yeah, and you
You
might
would just
not
see the
know that
top
it's a W.
a little
Yeah.
bit, well, yeah, it depends on how you did it. You'd have to be large enough so you could see the top, the bottom section, and then the part in the middle, so you would know it's W. It may not work out, but just the thought.
And thank you for reminding me, that was the other thing I wanted to mention, was that any of these designs would be coupled with Watertown Raiders. And, when we get to the point of figuring out how to sort of roll it out, that's where the style guide would come in for, if you're putting this on, something square, like a t-shirt or on a hat or something like that, here are the rules that we would follow. So that you don't just have something like this by itself without the name anywhere, because it's not McDonald's. People aren't going to recognize it with just that. They're going to need the context. And it could be that in certain circumstances the text could be off to the side, like on a letterhead, and in other circumstances it could be down below, and the letters could be really big. So depending on the need. Yes.
For like a cool like thing I was thinking of for concept 3 or concept 3A, like how the helmet has like the little holes on it, like
Yeah.
little openings. I think it would be kind of cool if they like spelled out Raiders.
Spell out Raiders across that.
So across the
Yeah.
We're
right,
aging
the
area.
grill on the helmet,
Raiders.
spell out Raiders.
Like in long skinny letters?
Yeah.
That's a pretty good idea.
That's pretty cool.
Right.
I think it's important that whatever one we choose kind of projects strength at the same time.
Well, we going to have a Patriot too, like Colgate University, similar to that one?
Yeah, we had talked about that, and that did not make it into our top 3 concepts.
Okay.
If we'd like to have another discussion about that, we absolutely can. Because it got mixed reviews last time, but we can definitely revisit it.
Can I pick up on this? Hold your thought for 1 second. Are there any designs that particularly do or don't exhibit strength? Should I make that comment? Sorry,
Yeah.
Lisa. were there any that you would rule out because of this, or no?
Yeah.
Go ahead, later, which one?
Not that anyone couldn't disagree, but I think either of the animals are not necessarily projecting strength, they project something, and there's life in them, but I don't necessarily think strength is one of the things. And the knight without the W feels a little empty.
I think that was one of the things we discussed in the last meeting, was to make the animal, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Because we discussed, in order to make it look, have that strength or give it a little bit of that aggressiveness, you'd have to have that, I mean, that horse looks a little too tame. So you'd have to either make it look a little more ferocious, and I don't know if that's really what we want
Do
to
you
try to.
want steam coming out of its nostrils or something?
No, but I agree with Shirley, I think that
I
in
think
order
the
to make that
horses look
strengthy look,
strong,
you
it's
have
the
to.
two at the bottom I
Yeah.
don't.
It'd be like Raider's team.
And that's something
I
that could
think
be
that,
done.
but with Mike wanted too.
Because
I really like the shield with the W, and then the idea of that mask having the word Raiders, I think that's, I really like that. We couldn't, I don't know what you do about a mascot for that, in particularly, but, I think that's very classy, I don't know.
So can I clarify what I said? Because I didn't mean to rule out the horses. It was the fox and the imaginary one that I was referring to. Reflecting something, but I didn't think it was strength. Maybe aggressiveness, but I don't know.
I think with the horses, it might portray like more elegance than strength. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I concur with that.
Yep.
Okay.
That's kind of what I was
Do you
just-
see that as a plus or minus?
Maybe a minus, because you know, mostly with sports teams, you try to get that aggressiveness in there.
Right.
I agree that the animal should be, portraying strength, and I think, I like the idea of the red fox or the wolf, but I think to make it more aggressive, you could put more like a snarl in it, like for the mouth. I don't know, for the concept too, the fox, the mouth seems a little too cute for like a sports mascot, I think.
Yeah.
I think the bobcat wolf looks too nice to me. I think it's the eyes. I thought the wolf looked mean enough. But I thought the bobcat, the eyes of the bobcat looks like kind of baby eyes. It didn't seem
The fox is
aggressive enough.
devious.
Yeah, it
Going
does
from the
look-
backyard or something, you know?
Fox, yeah, the bubble. Is that which one?
Well, I'd love to see the bobcat or wolf look a little meaner.
Okay.
It looks a little nice. I thought the fox looked sufficiently mean, but. Anyone have any thoughts on just the helmet itself with the Raiders in it and then underneath Watertown Raiders? Cause I really like that idea.
To be
Just the
without a
hel-
shield?
Yeah, just the helmet alone with Raiders in the, whatever, it's this thing, and then you have Watertown Raiders underneath. Oh, it's not up there, but it's just a thought. Just the helmet with Raiders there.
And then you could do your W concept behind it.
Yeah.
Is that what- You could still see the W.
Right. And we can go to.
Yeah, delineate.
I don't think strength and meanness are the same thing. Just want to say that.
The fox, if the ears were brought in a little bit more or standing up, it almost would look like the W.
See that again? If the ears
Oh,
were more
yeah.
standing?
If the ears were brought in tighter and more standing up, it would look more like the W.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea, because like
That
if
could be
standing up
the
means
W,
like that animal is alert.
It may make it look more fierce.
Yeah, aggressive.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Now that's an interesting point, because that's, design-wise, I was playing around with the ears, because for some animals, like cats, dogs, when they lay their ears down, well, cats, when they put their ears down, they're either afraid or being aggressive. Horses, I forget which way they go. Like, ears for certain species have, a meaning. And I wasn't entirely sure whether having the ears straight up would be more like alert and perky or fierce. So it would be interesting to try and see what kind of impression that gives. And I like the idea of the W. And there's a couple of other hidden W's that, like at the ends of the ears, on the bobcat has these little tufts coming off the ears. So these are tiny little W's potentially, and the fur at the top of the head could be a W, at the chin could turn into W's. That sort of zigzag shape, we could play around with where that appears if we go with an animal or most of these designs.
I wasn't here last week, but did anybody ever talk about putting the knight on the horse? Or, and rule that out, or?
We didn't rule it out. It got complicated
No.
graphically to have too much stuff going on, but we did talk about that. And it's certainly in the mix.
It's something we could mess around with. I think where I started with this idea was putting the shield sort of where it would be if somebody were riding a horse. Not exactly, but once I got it kind of in that position, I noticed the sort of the echoing lines of the neck, and it felt like it would kind of lock in the logo nicely. And with this, you could imagine the text coming in to this spot here, to the Watertown Raiders, coming in there or something like that, if it weren't, if we didn't have the W. And we could play around with the size of the W in proportion, the proportion of the shield to the head.
I think one of the concerns we had is we wanted to try to keep it proportional, going, in the Y and X axis, left to right, top to bottom. And if you start putting something above that, it kind of makes it not as proportional to be able to put on. In order to capture that, even if you think about putting something on the left breast, even on letterhead, you'd have a big area there, where you'd have to really be printing.
Yeah.
Just would be a lot more, better focusing more.
And I think overall what we might have lost sight of was simplicity, because there's a lot going on with the horses and the fox. I mean, the fox is simple, but with all the tufts, it might take away from just like the true meaning of it. Simplicity is definitely a thing we need to pay attention to.
Just going back to the Wildcat, I just looked up some Wildcat logos, and to make it more fierce or something, like the Kentucky Wildcats, they have their mouths, the Wildcat has their mouth open with fang teeth showing. I don't know if that's too fierce, but
I thought I heard in the last meeting that was too mean looking. But tell me if I'm, is that from you guys?
I just looked up because I knew Kentucky was Wildcats.
Yeah. That's definitely a direction we could.
If you wanted to be
maybe
fiercer
look
looking,
and
They
see
have them
how
all
people feel
open.
about something fanged.
just little fangs and a few teeth. There's a red and black one that's, but
Yes.
there's a lot of this.
One of the things Sherry and I started talking about a little bit when we were talking about the animal concepts, and kind of following in that simplicity vein, is perhaps removing a lot of it and just getting it down to what creates like that fierce imagery. So one of the things that I had sent her concept-wise was a baseball team called the Lake Elsinore Storm from the California area. They literally have 2 eyes as a logo. LSU does the same thing with the Tigers. It's just a set of eyes. It's an eye of a tiger. Perhaps something that removes everything else, throws into question. We don't have to worry if it's a person, a place, or whatever. It's just a set of eyes, and you can kind of make that fit where you seem, and it could be aggressive and intense and all the things that we want it to be. And she was showing me a sketch she had kind of played around with a little bit that I think may actually take us in that direction.
Yeah, this isn't that same sketch, but this was another iteration. I was just sort of messing around. So if we wanted to go more abstract, so that it looks less like a specific animal, this still has a little bit of animalness to it.
Yeah.
But you could also imagine, sort of taking that off. The one that the sketch that I had started with before, basically had like the beginnings of the outline of ears and the eyes with this sort of almond shape, and that's it. So if that's a direction that you guys want to pursue, I can try something more like that. Sort of like,
So I think when Kendra was reading this, and I can't read it from behind the projector here, but did people talk about it not being simply a sports representation, but representing everything else?
Yeah.
So some of what we're talking about seems to be very heavily in the sports realm.
Yeah. The feel of the school, kind of the community of the school, so whether it's academic or.
I think we mentioned that too, that we wanted to try to make it so it's
Yeah, a little more
not just.
universal. Yeah, you mentioned that.
But I mentioned it already, good to see it.
I think that's why I like the idea of like the helmet and shield, because like through a helmet you can't really tell emotion, but through a shield you can tell down is what the name is. Stay with it. I feel like that way it's like able to be used throughout the whole community, like through every like club or like academic thing in the school. I feel like it would just be a good representation.
I feel like the shield could be used in all different communities, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Transcends not just sports, but.
So I'm getting, is it a must-have to be able to use it across activities? Now, is this specifically for the high school?
Yes.
Yes. What else?
So people think about connecting the lines on the shield, not being too specific, but you mentioned having it need a little more balanced. Sometimes the shield looks a little imbalanced to me because of the white that goes through at an angle. Kind of connecting here a bit.
Are we referencing 3 or?
Outline the white strip.
Yeah, yeah, there's something that feels
Or the lightning or
something
whatever
like,
it is.
yeah, like that. But it's
It
just a
was,
thought.
from the text, it was meant to be like a lightning bolt going
Mhm.
through.
Oh,
But you could outline the lightning bolt.
Right, so
Yeah.
that's,
Oh,
that's
that's
just
just
a
a
good
thought.
idea. So connecting these lines would
right.
show that it's a lightning bolt.
And then it's a shield. If you want it to be a shield, that would make it a shield, quote unquote, if you connected it.
I'd also like to see that concept of the colors reversed. We had some conversations, obviously, in our first meeting, that red was the primary color, and although black has certainly come in more recent years, I think there seemed to be at least the feeling from what I got that they wanted this kind of push toward returning to red. I'd almost like to see it reversed. I'd like to see the red on top, black down the bottom, more prominently placing that red.
And then the WB black.
That would kind of be up to the graphic artist to make that call.
No, but I'm saying if you reversed it to the red.
Mm.
If you put it on top of the red,
Yeah.
it would have to be.
Or you just
Yeah.
keep the black outline around the red.
Yeah.
It's still,
And then
you-
it would still look.
Yep.
White.
W on a red back.
Well, you'd have a red shield, black outline, white, red, I don't think that would look better.
So are you saying this would be red and the W would be black?
Not necessarily. I mean, again, you'd make the ultimate call on how that would. I would literally just flip red and black in that concept. So I would make red the top thicker color and black the bottom half.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to see. Yeah, to see the map.
That's definitely easy to play with.
It does show the essence of the red.
I still like the horse with the W on the shield for the elegance and strength kind of a thing. image, like a thoroughbred. I don't know.
But it really doesn't have much to do with the grader.
Yeah,
if
I'm
it's
having
the
trouble making
horse.
that
Me
connection.
too, I can't,
I actually wanted to know what the students felt about
yeah,
that. Like,
I just,
how do you feel like a horse represents the word raider?
I feel like the best one like that represents River Raider is the knight. And I feel like a lot of people think that, like, my mom told me that her and like a lot of her friends who went to the high school think that like if they're gonna change it, it should be that one.
That's a lot of what I've heard from other students also.
Oh, really, the night?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So the knight seemed most like
fit the word.
fit the word.
Strong.
I like the horse design a lot, but I just can't make the connection with raider.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Oh, I forgot tonight.
Let me ask a question.
We changed it a little. But, you'll have to walk, sneak out at night, and we see us,
It's okay, it's all
Maybe
right.
the grader.
If we did play out the concept of the knight on the horse, or, I guess in my mind,
Yeah.
combining the shield and the horse, put the concept of knight and horse together without actually having the knight. But, maybe it would need the actual knight or helmet combined.
But we gotta call it a raider, it can't be a knight, cause we're the
But
raiders.
to pull off
Yeah,
raider, to
we
pull
gotta,
off
to
right,
hold
to
it
make the
together as
connection.
raiders, we'd have to keep it not as a knight, cause
Yeah,
we're the
okay.
raiders,
Would
cause they
this
kept the
fall?
name.
If we took a hybrid and made, so we kept the horse's mane, kept all that, and then replaced the horse's head with the knight. So now you've got the top of the, so we keep this design the way this is here, because the logo doesn't have to, the mascot doesn't have to be something real. It's something that we depict as being what we are referring to as the mascot. And a mascot doesn't have to be anything that's it can be an inanimate object, it can be fictitious, it can be anything. So what if we took the shield, the helmet, yeah, placed that in that area like that, made that be like
That's
a,
creepy.
so now it's kind of.
I'm sorry, that's creepy.
Doesn't like that one.
I don't like that
Have
concept.
horse,
How would
have
you feel?
some.
Thanks for playing.
Great idea, and
Find someone outside with a police agreement. Just a thought.
I like the originality and we should be thinking, broadening the ideas, so I like that for
It's a
that.
cartoon,
Think-
it's half horse and half.
Minotaur.
There are,
Like a centaur.
I think it's
It
a
was,
cartoon.
Centaur, I
Yeah.
remember the word.
It's like the Minotaur.
Does anyone, like, I know people are veering away from the fox, I'm just gonna do one last throw at it. If it was simplified, like the edges were gone and it was just a kind of a cleaner,
Yeah.
Fox isn't doing it for us.
still be a
Maybe.
fox.
It's not down.
Red
No, it's a
Raider?
fox, yeah, it's
A
like.
raiding fox.
At the end of the day, I think we've got to be able to sell it in the community, and
Yeah.
everything I've heard about the animal, it's just not flying. It's just, I mean, I tried to sell it, and it's just not selling.
Good feedback.
It's that song from 2 years ago.
I love the horse, but to me that has nothing to do with being a raider. I don't know, that just, in my mind.
That's why I was putting the knight.
So it's, really getting down to it, a raider is like a title you would give to someone, and it'd be hard to give that to like an animal. But I was thinking, I really like the helmet idea, because it's ominous, but it also shows strength. So that's pretty good with athletics, but maybe if we explored more with different kinds of helmets or armor, that'd be cool.
So let me ask this, when you think raider and you think helmet, what comes to mind?
Viking helmet, first thing. First thing.
We had a Viking last
Yeah.
week with the big red mustache, remember?
Mm.
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe just helmet.
Maybe, sorry.
Maybe if we just did, without like the head or any, person at all, just like a Viking helmet. With like the horns on the side, like swordfoot Vikings.
And again, no, raider, I know, yeah. but they were gonna put the Raider name across that. See where the red grill is, that would be the Raider name.
All right, so
To
Be good.
identify as Raiders.
Yeah.
It would look nice.
Yeah, it was surprising how quickly the Viking got voted off the island last week. I
Yeah.
was surprised.
I think it was the red mustard.
Maybe it was
It was a Viking.
Yeah.
Again, Raider.
But the helmet, maybe we could look at different helmet
Vikings
options
did
and
great.
see if like
Yeah.
this
No question
kind of
about that.
fits.
this was kind of the image I was thinking of.
Okay.
Can't see it.
Wait, yeah.
Still can't see it.
Very
It's
mythological.
probably best.
Just,
Yeah, no, it's
I'm
not
not
bad.
trying to put
You
my,
know
I'm just
the,
saying, just
The guard that guards,
thinking out
like
loud.
the
yeah,
Pope,
just thinking out loud.
they're dressed up
Oh,
in those helmets.
Oh, no, I don't know.
What do they call them?
Guards of the
Swiss
Pope.
Army
No,
or-
yeah, Swiss Guard.
Swiss Guard, they have kind of a cool helmet.
Yes.
We'll have Mr. Google over there.
Historically, Vikings are Raiders, so I think that, I really like the Viking because of that.
I liked it too, I was surprised nobody else did that.
Well, they had the
Not like
feathers
the
on their
human-
head.
They do have a feather. I know, I see the helmet she's looking at,
That's why
yeah.
they just-
What's it called, the Swiss
Swiss Guard.
Guard?
I feel like if we were going to do, like, the night on a horse, it should be like, the first thing that comes to my mind is like jousting,
That's what that image
but
was.
without like the pointy stick.
Although that stick is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Again,
And
weapons.
it's not, and it's not a firearm.
It's a weapon.
That was
Again.
Are we holding joust down on Mount Auburn Street?
I hope not.
So I'm thinking it's a weapon that we've gotten beyond.
It might be interesting to
We
look
need
at
to
the
joust
options
with
with
the
that
Raiders,
image.
not joust.
With like the, it's a more complicated image, but with the knight and like the jousting stick.
One thing that, one possibility if we decided to go with a little bit more complex thing like the knight on the horse, it could be simplified to a silhouette. Or pretty close to a silhouette, so it doesn't have all the detail.
If we were doing a horse, I think it would be like a cool idea, like, you know how when people are riding horses, they put like this cloth over the back of the horse, and it like kind of falls down?
Yeah.
I feel like at the bottom of it, we could say, we could put a W on that, or we could put readers on that.
Say it again, the clock, the kind,
Yeah.
The saddle
It's
pad.
like a-
The saddle pad?
Yeah.
There's husband said that too.
I think last week we said we didn't want to have a specific group of people, and Vikings are a group of people who are just ancestors of people today, so I think we had just said we shouldn't have any groups of people. I think that's one of the reasons why.
Oh, was it? I missed that.
I'm not sure if it got written down, but I thought it came up.
Yeah, we did bring it up.
So by groups of people, are you saying
Like a
stay away from?
nationality or,
Uh-huh. So would things like Vikings fall into that, in your opinion, or?
well, they are the predecessors of some group of people in Denmark and Netherlands and whatnot.
Back to Leif Erikson again.
Yeah.
Where's Leif Erikson?
We talked about that.
Find that guy, will you please?
Remember it was the defunct theory that he had come down the
Yeah.
Charles, I was
Oh, yeah.
pushing it, but no one was, I know I tried. No one was like,
You should say there's a plaque somewhere.
there is a plaque, it's in North Cambridge. I like so much, I'm in a little article. Still, nobody bid. I was devastated. Prove it.
That's pretty funny.
We're gonna have to
I
go
don't
back to
know.
Salisbury. The founder of the town.
Yes. Well, Sherry's husband came up with a very interesting option. Sir Saltonstall, the founder of the town, in a very Shakespearean outfit that would have worked for theater but not for athletics, I think.
It was an adorable image, but
Probably not right.
not sure it would have passed the strength test with the Shakespearean, picture Shakespearean actors with the tights and the
Yeah.
flouncy
Mhm.
top and the fencing sword. The sword is cool.
Speaking a little bit to the point we made about being able to use things across activities in the community, both on the academic and athletic side, I think that side or that item, I think that's the W. I think that's kind of where the W piece of this whole thing fits in. So as I look at what we're trying to kind of piece together, I'm seeing a secondary logo. I'm seeing something that's on the side of basketball shorts. I'm seeing it Potentially as a decal on a football helmet, maybe, but I'm also seeing that W still in that role. And the kind of the iconic nature of that W really hit home for me when Mike passed out those Ws at the end of the meeting last time. Watching how excited people got to get their first varsity letter for some of us. But just the reaction to that point tells me that there is something to that. There's something very simple, very iconic. That's the item that will go across the aisle to the academic side, will be on the athletic side. It's going to be the unifying piece. So getting that piece kind of solidified along with another logo of this type, and maybe bridging the gap between those two items, I think is something we've got to kind of look at in the grand scheme of things, is that W really does matter at the end of the day. And we want one. That was the one thing that came out of the first meeting I feel like that everyone agreed on at that first meeting was one W. No more baseball team wearing one, football team another, basketball a third. One W comes out of this concept as well.
I think that's something we should start looking into, like a specific set W.
Yeah, having that continuity is pretty cool.
The W on the basketball court is the Wisconsin Badgers W.
Yep.
That's what Mike said.
Then the other ones that we used, when I was there, we used just the block one,
Yep.
white or black on football, then some were white, red and white on the hockey team, or black and white, or, so the one on the football field, I believe, is just the regular red block.
Block.
It's
Yeah, I
not-
think it's just a red
It's not
block.
the Wisconsin one, so we got different ones everywhere.
Yep.
That's what we'll start figuring out though, once we
Yeah,
have
the
one.
baseball.
Right, once we get one, then we can
Yeah.
kind of start
If you
to.
wanted, and also different colors,
Right,
yeah,
together.
blocking it in.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's no total consistency.
Each team kind of picked their own.
Right.
So this would be a good opportunity to, in this process, to land on a font. I'm a big fan of using real font when you're gonna choose a letter. Not just yes, I can draw, but no, I'm not gonna draw a W and just make that. Because I think when we roll this out, I think it makes sense to have even conversations about using fonts are there other areas that the style guide might want to play out, in I don't know, advertisements or in when you're making posters or whatever. It helps sort of reinforce the brand, if you want to call it that, if you use the same font. At least oftentimes there's one font for headlines and then another font for the text, because sometimes you gotta have something that's really readable for the text, but you want something big, bold, and and that makes a statement for headlines. So if we end up choosing a W that makes a really good headline font, then let's incorporate that into whatever our solution is, and then also have the suggestions in the style guide for how you use that in other areas. So whatever designs we end up choosing, we should get to the point of crafting the words that go along with it, and think about, do we want the font to be something that's more like one of the W's that's been used in the past, or do we want to get something that's slightly newer? The font that I used here is something called Copperplate. I just put that in because it's fairly simple and straightforward. There's there's a lot of complexity to fonts, and to get something that can do well embroidered or screen printed, we want to make sure that it's something that's bold and not too many curlicues and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
So do we have to have a mascot? I mean, is that something that the students really want? Or would you be happy just with a universal W and Watertown Raiders underneath? Or do you want a mascot?
I want a mascot.
I think mascot's the important part here, over just the W, that's really broad,
You do want a mascot?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's not one or the other, I don't believe. Because when you go through the series with brand, it's primary logo, secondary logo. So you can have a primary logo and say that is our W. That's going to be on hats. That's going to be on the side of the football helmet. That's going to be the center of the court. That's going to be those things. And then you have a secondary logo that is that side of the shorts and other things. You can have both. and still be on one brand, one message, and have
Yeah,
continuity
well, I
in the
just
process.
wanted to
Yeah.
make sure that that's what they really wanted.
The problem with only a W is 80% of the towns around here begin with a W.
Feels and then what?
Yeah, I think, you know, combining it with something, with some element will help it be distinctive rather than just the W all by itself. Let me ask this, if, I'm not trying to steer a decision by any means, but if it were something like the W on the shield, would that be enough? Or the W and some other element, W and I's, you know, W and one small piece of, you know, one small element, would that be enough to give somebody the creative license to create a mascot around that? What do you guys think?
You mean like it would be just the W and one other thing, and then you like create an element?
Right, so I'm sort of in a way separating the logo design, which is what we're talking about right now, and the creating the mascot would be building the costume. So in this process to create the logo, what I'm hearing from you guys is it needs to have enough to sink your teeth into to make a mascot to go along with it. So my question is, would something like the W and the shield, or the W and a set of eyes be enough to have another to take to the costume designer and say, come up with a raider that has this feel to it?
You mean for like a game?
Yeah, for
like
games.
the bleacher
So you're
creature?
saying like, is the shield enough or shield, or is the helmet enough of a logo? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, like if we if we ended up with a logo that was
An
the W on a
inanimate
shield.
object.
Sorry?
An inanimate object?
Yeah, an inanimate object, or just a small piece of an animal, for example, like just the eyes. The building of the mascot in my mind is a costume.
That is exactly what it is. I
And
agree.
that's not, that's different from creating something that you can embroider on a t-shirt. As far as technically, you've got somebody who's actually using materials and, plastics and whatever else. So would it be acceptable, do you think, to separate the logo design and the building of an actual mascot that could be worn at games?
Well, I feel like that depends on what the picture is, but I think yes. I feel like there were different ideas about whether it would just be the head of the knight or just the whole body, but I feel like either way, it would be easy to make a mascot of it, because you just say make a knight costume. I feel like it's kind of you can interpret it. I don't know. It's from the head, you copy what you see in the picture, and then the rest you
make up.
Yeah.
Guilty.
So if you just had the shield and the costume could be any helmet, any costume, would that feel too loose?
Well,
It would-
sorry, there definitely has to be some comparison, but I guess if we get, if everyone's really, sorry, it's hard to put into words. It's if everyone is familiar with the helmet or anything we end up using, that definitely has to be mainly portrayed onto the costume, so everyone can get a feel for that. But besides that, yeah, I think it's a good idea.
So if I'm hearing you right, you would rather have, if it's gonna be a knight, for example, then having something like the helmet defined in the logo would be the preference. Yeah, so that it's definitely can be linked. When you see the costume, you recognize the logo immediately.
Right.
Does that make sense? Thank you.
I think we've done some of that currently, the way we are now. I mean, we've got what we know as our former, or our current, though not sanctioned, but our current mascot that we use, and people have migrated towards, meandered, I should say, towards using W's quite often. I mean, we've done that ourselves, clearly. You can see this sheet here, everybody's done that.
Mhm.
So I think that having that, I think that the whole concept here is we can ultimately always do the portion of the W as we've done currently, but probably coming up with a concept of a mascot is really what would be most essential. Because we can always do, we're always gonna have this luxury to do anyway, we do that currently.
But I think what people had said at the first meeting is at the end of the day, they want one of us, not
Right, yeah, yeah.
Whichever one's on our
I think that
mascot.
goes without
They,
saying.
yeah, they,
Yeah.
correct, not, they don't wanna leave people to be like, oh, track wants to do this one wants to do
Right,
that.
what I'm
They
saying
want
though,
one.
what I'm saying is, I think basically why it's migrated towards this is because some feel they don't wanna have the current,
Mhm.
and some wanna maybe just have some other kind of a concept. But I think ultimately, to use one mascot as a logo, that's one thing, but you can still always still do something like this just to have anyway. I mean, you're gonna get this anyway.
No, they wanna change it to just the one.
I think,
That's what the school committee's gonna vote on.
I understand
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I'm
that's what he's
saying-
saying. He's saying,
Yeah.
you can just a W is still, it's exactly.
What I'm saying
Yeah.
is, you're gonna have your logo, everyone can still do this.
No, what you're saying, are we picking out one W?
I think,
Everyone wants
I
one
think
W.
essentially to pick out the mascot as what we wanna have as a mascot would be what we do, and then theoretically to figure out what we're gonna use for that W that would be sanctioned. I think people would still have
I
variations.
thought you were gonna say,
outside.
let's use them all.
No,
No, I
But
think
that's
people
You're
would
saying the
still.
same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're picking one W. I think one of the, I mean, part of, I think what I'm hearing is, we have to have a logo, a mascot image to go with the W.
Correct.
We have to have that, that's, we are filling that void, and that's really important. Whether it's just a shield, and even if you wanna dress up and just bring a shield to a game, or a helmet to a game, I mean, that works too. So,
Right.
there's lots of ways we can do it, but I think the important thing
Or
is,
a cape.
it's the W that is sanctioned, and we pick it, it's the colors we pick, and it is the image that goes with it, whether they're together, or whether they're separate in some ways, those are consistent and.
Yep, they're consistent across all.
And I
would concur with that.
would discourage us from having them completely separate. I would say, I mean, from.
No, I'd rather have them together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
if you want them to be seen as one thing, or as related, we've gotta come up with some
Continuity,
solution. Yeah, some solution
uniformity.
that has them together, even if sometimes you can strip out the thing and just have the W, yeah.
I'm gonna sound like you like that.
I feel like you're right that like there's always gonna be a few variations because like when it comes to like the youth leagues and like rugby's, they always have like different ones. But at the high school, I think like everyone's biggest frustration is that like there's different W's. Because like it feels like we aren't even one school. So like I think I agree that it should be one.
Yeah, yeah,
Or like
we're all agreed on that.
And you can give it to the youth leagues, and they will follow.
They'll follow,
the line.
they'll follow the flagship wherever it goes.
Absolutely.
Other sheet.
So, I have a question. Remember when, Pete Santola brought up last week about the booster
Boosters.
groups
Yep.
and they shouldn't be able to use our fields with,
Right.
because that's another big thing is you gotta get the booster groups to go along with what we're trying to do here.
Yep.
And I don't know if anyone looked into that law, whatever he was talking about, that they couldn't use our fields if they had different.
I think sell the merchandise at the games and stuff.
Yeah, that's what
Oh, when they sell like the
Selling-
sweatshirts and
Yeah.
stuff?
Or like making money from a school sanctioned game.
Exactly,
And
it's
yeah,
not,
right. Yeah, and we will definitely have conversations with boosters, and we'll be, and I assume they'll be very cooperative, and they'll want to do what this district does and what the town does, so, but we'll certainly cross that
Maybe
bridge.
they
Oh,
put
because I'll
money
be honest,
into
right?
getting the shields and the helmets. They could sell the shields and the helmets.
But we will certainly will cross that bridge after we get.
Yes, I know.
I haven't looked into the law.
I will tell you from,
For years to get
I
this.
know.
I'll tell you from my corporate days, working with, something like 35 different assistants and having to roll out a new brand. The easier you make it, the more you get compliance. If you have, nobody wants to redesign a logo. It's work to redesign a logo. So if a group is coming up with a T-shirt or a hat or something like that for sale, 9 times out of 10 they're pulling something off the internet. If they can find something that represents the what they're going for, if they can't find a image, or they can't find the person to give them a high resolution image, they're stripping something off the internet and they're retracing it. If they can't find that, they're making it up. And that takes up more work than it does to download something. If we have it up on the website and we say, you know, and click here to download, we will get a lot more, you know, continuity.
But it will take some time too, let's just be honest,
Mhm.
and we'll roll it out carefully.
I feel as though, with like having like the W in the logo, I feel like we definitely should have the W in the logo. So when like, the logo is out and it's like being spread around, people see this W and they're like, this is our W, like, they know that it's set in stone and with like variations, like, they look at our logo and they see the W and it's kind of just our W.
So, to be able to tell that it's RW,
Like, that's why I like concept 3 the most, because, it's like, they have both that, like, character and, like, the W display. So, like, you look at it and you're like, there's like a W Watertown.
Thank you for.
Then the Raiders, I like that, the shield, that's pretty cool.
Can I ask a question about green, because I like that too.
Yeah.
It feels asymmetrical to me.
yeah.
Could you put the W up and then, like,
It could be bigger.
well, not even bigger, but if you just moved it up here, and then you had Raiders in the grill, and then you just had that? It's just an idea, because it feels lopsided to me for some reason, I don't know why.
Feels unbalanced.
Yeah, but I like that it has all those components, and then if you put Raiders in the grill, that's even better. Just a thought, it'd be nice to see it that way, and then we can take a look and see, maybe it won't look good, but it's worth looking.
I also think like the shield would be like, a good opportunity for like the school. So if you were doing like, say you were in the play, or you just finished like a season of like a sport, and you were at like your banquet, there could be like a shield award, which is kind of like the MVP of the season, or like MVP of like the play. Like, I feel like that would be a good
I like that.
opportunity.
I like that too.
Tie in.
It's great, I'm running out of room for lights.
I like that idea too.
Paul might even give one out. Just be kind.
Shield award, does that capture it, or should I put more than that?
Oh.
So is that in place of getting a W for playing a sport?
No, it's not.
No,
It's
no,
like an
it's just like
MVP.
an
It's like
award.
kind of
It's like an
MVP
MVP.
idea.
Special award.
Yeah,
Okay.
like sportsmanship, be the shield, the strength award,
Integrity.
yeah.
So at this point,
Yeah.
I guess we should go to be like, just have to show the word because they show,
Yes.
they show honor. No, you don't do it, they show. Wait, no, it's pretty much
okay, so, feels like we might be getting to the point of being able to kind of consolidate.
I feel like from what everyone has said, and maybe I'm wrong, but that everyone is kind of focused on the left too, whether it's just the shield or the shield with the helmet. But I just was wondering if we had an informal poll.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Are there any that we can completely rule out at this point, do you think?
The
Or
horses.
mostly?
I feel like the Bobcat just isn't doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
not
not, I
bad.
would agree with that.
Any last Bobcat fans?
You can take it home, right?
No.
I can, yeah.
Put your take home version.
I'm just gonna
Make
put
it
it
with the
down
big
here.
W on his face.
It's not for us.
Is that
I'm not
W
into
like
the
first
fox.
one? Is that like supposed to be like if it was just a W on?
This is
So
just,
like
yeah,
all-
just a
shield.
W on a shield.
Okay.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
So, see, for the lack of mascot, should we take that one down?
Really?
No, I like that one.
I kind of like it too.
It could be
But
better
it
to
doesn't have the
W, like,
mask though.
as opposed to
Maybe
printed onto
there-
the shield.
you have to think of that.
Embossed,
Yeah.
looking for something maybe a little
I
embossed
just
look.
like get rid of it, I just like don't know.
Yeah.
Can we play with that one? We talked about mixing the colors, maybe putting Raiders on the shield somewhere, I don't know.
Shield can be select.
I did.
So that's the core question, can the shield, stand in for a mascot or be enough of an implication of a mascot?
Like, I feel like if you wanna like be able to dress up at sporting events, or, I feel like it just would work.
You don't feel like it's enough?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm air conditioning.
I don't think this one does it for me, but I would be opposed to playing around with it to see if it did.
Yeah, I mean,
As- Go ahead.
like, I mean, it definitely could work, but like as of right now, I'm picturing just like a person with a shield, and then they're like, oh, what should I wear? Like, I don't know.
Conceptually though, they could exist together.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you couldn't have chosen, say, the one with the helmet, and then in certain circumstances, it may make sense to use just the W on the shield. Once we settle on how the W is on the shield and they go together, you could work those two together.
That could be, if we have, you know, the shield plus something else, and you're shrinking something down to really tiny, you may wanna have a version that just has the W with the
No,
shield.
I feel like you should pick something and stick with it, and then because for consistent, I don't wanna have two versions of logos or nothing, you know.
I think that's gonna complicate.
I think it will complicate things too, and since we're blowing it out, I think it makes it too, anyways,
I
let's just
think,
think.
I think the key words that we use when we're trying out there is consistency and uniformity, in order to make sure that we don't have any, migration of any of these logos. That's what's gonna prevent this.
Yeah.
True.
Is the fox still in the room?
Fox is right.
So,
I may be
I'm not a
Precise.
Fox fan.
I like
The
rundown,
bubbles.
so these two are essentially the same. There's, you know, there's the difference of the W on the forehead or not, and the difference of the big W or not. Is it pretty safe to say I can take this one down, but we
Yeah.
potentially add the W back in
I'm
and
not
play
into
with
the
it?
What does the horse have to do with
Yeah,
it?
I know with the Raiders, I don't.
I think we can cleanse the horse.
Like the one on the forehead.
And it is great. You like the one with the forehead?
Oh, no, I think the one on the forehead isn't like that clear, LW.
But it could be clearer if you
I mean,
like.
it is, but it's.
I didn't even notice it
So-
until I sat down here, and
Yeah,
I
I
was
think-
looking at them today.
Notice what?
I know.
The W on the board.
The W on the
Yeah, I
forehead.
noticed
is-
it. No, I, like I said, I think the Broncos.
By itself,
I noticed it, like I didn't.
by itself, even if we made that bolder, by the time you shrink this image down, the W is gonna
It's
disappear.
gonna be
So
so
you need to do
small.
something,
I think you're right.
you know, proportionally.
Horse is left for that.
It should be a scratch more than a letter.
So and so this one and this one are essentially the same, the shield plus the helmet, shield with the W in the helmet. So we'll play around with one of those.
I think the exception was we were gonna put a W like
I might try putting the
this.
W up here, yeah. And we'll
Oh,
try-
not
Now, is,
that high?
Well,
Did you
it'll be
want
next
the
to
W
it.
She could do
back?
a few
I was just thinking
variations.
of having it symmetrical, but I'd be interested to see what it looks like, and when it looks bad, we'll just scratch it.
I'll play around with a handful of different solutions
Mhm.
and proportions and, shifting. It's possible too that we take off these parts of the lightning bolt that come off the shield and embed the W in here and play with some positive, negative stuff to make it
Like the
look like
girls
it's
say
awesome.
Raiders.
Yeah.
Yeah, the grill saying Raiders, my hunch is if it's in this kind of proportion, it's gonna be so tiny, it would be really hard to read.
I kinda like the idea still of like the
As you
W
shrink that
behind
down.
it.
As you shrink it down,
Yeah,
it's
that's
gonna
what
be
I
little
like.
scratches.
Yeah.
Just the helmet,
Because then
with
the
Raiders in the
helmet
grill and the W behind it.
Actually,
I could try
You're
that.
gonna be able to see the whole W, so we know it's a W.
I don't know.
I'm imagining the
I know how
helmet
you-
would kind of slide up
Yeah.
into that, kind of that space in the
Right.
bottom of it, the reverse V in the bottom of the W, the helmet would have to go up
Sherry, do you think
into
we
that
can
point.
see just the helmet itself with Raiders in the grill and a W behind it?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to see that too.
So one of the things that Sherry just said, and I agree, concur, anything that you take, as you enlarge, you see the image clearer. But as you reduce it back down again, that, when you put that to if that's in the middle of the gym floor with the radar on there, you read that fine. But if you bring that back down to something that you're gonna be putting on a helmet, side of the left of the helmet, you won't see it
You're
there
never
at
gonna-
all.
Even
I
if she
agree.
takes the shields out and blows up the helmet to be larger.
You'd have to blow it up considerably still to make that radar out.
Yeah.
So that's one consideration, is you start doing that, you lose that effect.
Well, and I think it's a good point, I wonder if there's, what do people think about doing, like, writing Raiders
On the
right down
deck piece.
here instead? If you're having issues with seeing it, doing Raiders, instead of, if you can't see, I'd rather it in the grill, if
Or
you
up
can't
the
see the
lightning
grill,
bolt.
then maybe putting the Raiders in other places.
Oh, up the lighting, the red, if you change the color at the bottom to the black and then have it red, well, again, we're not the Red Raiders, but the Raiders would be that color. Up the
Yep.
bolt.
Yeah, so Raiders down here possibly.
So if
Or
we
in the
can't make
bottom
it
of
work,
the
Shirley
bolt.
said
maybe in
Or
the
the
in
bottom
the
of the
bolt.
bolt,
Yeah, in the.
In
Right
the
in the
lightning
bolt.
bolt.
That's a good
Yeah.
idea.
So the W up here and the,
yeah.
or even Watertown up here and Raiders down.
Or you'd have to just extend it beyond the face. I mean, I know it would look kind of crazy, but you can incorporate it within, keep this as a color and incorporate Raider starting from here across. So you'd extend it out and you'd
Right.
still have the shield in there as the Raider. I mean, as the shield, but part of the letter would go in there too.
Yeah.
How do you make the shield?
So just extend the Raider up beyond the shield. The R would stop beyond the shield. And
One thing I was thinking about earlier, like, it's, I don't know how I fit in it personally, but it's just like an idea, like, how some knights have, like, they have stuff coming out of the top of their helmets. Like, maybe if it were on a horse or something, I don't know. Like, the top of the helmet, stuff coming out of the top of the helmet could, like, flow in the wind kind of, and, like, have Raiders spelled out. That's kind of what I've been thinking of.
With, say that last part again?
Like, what's been in my head this whole time is like the idea of the knight on the horse, and it's kind of like galloping, and you know how knights have like the stuff coming out of the top of their helmet, like it could be like flowing in the wind and spelling out Raiders.
Like a little banner.
Like a banner that's.
But we don't have any windows.
The feathers are the one we saw last week.
Yeah, that's just, I don't know.
Which the feathers don't really work, but that makes more sense.
Yeah, it's been in my head, like I don't know how I feel about it, like personally.
Well, we can just try it.
I thought that's what you would do.
Is there enough, interest to try the night on the horse?
I think you're gonna find that it's my personal opinion is gonna be too complicated.
Yeah, it's too
We
much.
just talked about keeping it simple. And now it's a horse, it's a shield, it's a knight, it's got Raider coming out of its head, it's gonna be a lot.
But I
That's just what I
I
think.
think you could have that concept without having the knight on the horse. You could have only the helmet
Just the helmet.
with that, and the implication is blowing in the wind.
How about we talked about the silhouette, the very simple silhouette of the knight on the horse? And then have Raider somewhere on there. I know I'm moving on to a different concept, so maybe I'm going to church this way.
Note taking. So I can remember. Do you guys want me to play around with the silhouette idea?
Is anyone interested in seeing like a very
It's kind of a lot. I mean,
silhouette of a horse and then?
I don't know what we have to do with horses again, the Raiders. I mean, it's,
No, well, you're going now in more of a medieval concept. So
Yeah.
you get
So it would be.
the fall of
Move
the
it back
Raiders,
instead
the
of
knights
forward.
get on the horses.
but we're
they
not
raid.
knights, we're the Raiders, you gotta remember.
But in order for the knight to raid, had to get on the horse.
We don't have to call him a knight, he's a Raider.
But it's a Raider.
The
He's a
item
Raider.
in
No, I
the metal
If it, people
Yes.
don't like it, that's
heading on a
fine.
horse.
But it's
If you
hard,
wanna see a
because if you
concept.
call him a knight, it's like, but he's not, he's a Raider.
Essentially,
That's why we
you
kept
could
the
see
name
Big dog.
Raider.
The Raider had to get on a
in the
horse to get
context of what
somewhere.
you're already developing.
Well, he's not, he's gonna get in his Maserati.
Does anyone wanna see a
So don't
concept
make a whole new
of like a
logo.
horse
You're
silhouette
already doing, that's
with
fine.
a knight on it with the Raider on the side thing, the side salad? You don't have to do it if you don't like it. Nope, silhouette's out. Right, we're not.
It would be a beautiful image,
But we're the
And it would
Raiders,
also be-
again, we kept the name, so that's,
So plenty
you know.
of people that raided rode
Yes.
horses to do it.
I know, but we're the 21st century, we don't need horses anymore, we're just raiding you and we're gonna beat
beach, for example.
We're gonna walk there with our metal
Yes, we're
sign.
gonna walk from there. We're gonna get our 10,000 steps in, and we're gonna walk there.
With our help.
We're getting back to the shade.
Do you know how heavy that
Yes,
helmet
we'll
is?
carry our
Just a
shade.
little? Just a second.
We'll get plastic.
Okay.
All right, so we'll play around with the different versions of the
So can we, were we assuming that the fox is gone?
That's my last question. How are people feeling about
Kendra wants
fox?
I'm the only one who likes the fox.
Oh, see if she can make it with the W
Nah,
ears
it's
then.
okay, I'm not really attached to it yet.
I can play around with the W ears, I can play around with the.
I named
with
him
a
Red,
super-
I thought that was so
But
cute.
we can't be the Red Raiders, we're just the Raiders.
Red the Raider.
Yes.
She's not attached to it. I love that.
We're gonna make her a special one.
The fox, I thought it was funny.
Have you sent that home?
Yes.
That prints out, that should.
We're gonna sign that, Kenny, spread the knowledge, so put it somewhere, all of us.
Does anyone but like, except for me, like the fox?
I like the
It's
fox,
fine.
but I think it seems like we're moving towards that night. That's something.
Yeah.
So just before we totally move on, does the idea of some just eyes or eyes with sort of generic or a really graphic simplified version of ears, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a fox or a particular animal, is that something worth looking at still, or what do you think?
I don't like it as much as the other things we were talking about.
I think animals might be out of question.
Animals out?
I don't like just the eyes. I wouldn't mind a simplified version of that, but I am alone here.
Paul, can we get another T-shirt? You offered something last week. Can we get another T-shirt?
If we have a small desk, we'll put it outside, put a chair out there. Like the old days.
The eyes have.
All right.
We can, by the way, yes.
Can we have one more T-shirt for Kendra? Okay, thank you.
All right, so we have very much narrowed it down, awesome, thank you. Any other last versions? So it sounds like we're gonna try playing around with a handful of different combinations of the W, the helmet, and the shield, try to play around with proportions, we'll try adding the word Raiders somehow incorporated with the grill, and or underneath.
Or down below.
Or down below,
Yeah.
or down below
Yeah.
there. Play around with the words here, and I'll try a couple different iterations of the shield itself, because this was, literally the one that had been submitted, but we don't necessarily have to stick with that. One of the challenges with it is are the pieces kind of coming off. So if we're not tied to that, then there could be different overlapping, basically.
Maybe we could even use that lightning bolt to write Raiders, so Raider has a little lightning bolt look to it.
Said that. Yes, we've already discussed that.
I
like that idea. I keep telling her.
I'm not sure I captured
Up the
that.
red. Well, unless you change colors, yeah.
You can do black.
I'm good at stealing ideas, Shirley. Coming late to the
He's taking
game.
the credit.
I think you're just agreeing with me, I'm good with that.
There's no name.
It just, we didn't see it.
Beautiful. Anything else somebody's been envisioning, thinking about, or things that we definitely want to stay away from?
No, I'm saying that we on both sides, in case it flips, we can do it.
There's one on my phone there. that I have that.
I know exactly what you guys mean, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Once she's on the board, it makes sense.
Yeah.
This is my shorthand.
The way you talked about, is the idea that the W could also be kind of independent? The idea of having the same W, like it's like on
It's like a letter.
as a letter on a uniform, like on a shoulder or something, that it could be independent or not?
Baseball hats. Baseball hats and stuff like
I
that. Smaller
don't know.
helmets.
I think we need to think about.
I think we determined though they're gonna pick,
There's
we're gonna make
W.
one specific W font be that
That's
W.
for
Right.
sure.
and you would utilize that in conjunction with powder asphalt.
There may be instances where you really do need to just use the W.
Oh, I don't think there's any question about it. I think the W has got to be able to stand by itself, because I'm just thinking on a baseball cap, just trying to get that logo onto a baseball cap and be able to recognize the W, it's not gonna
Yeah.
work. So we've gotta be able to take the W out of it and put it, same with the varsity jacket, you're not gonna have a giant helmet with a sword, there's gotta be a W that goes in that spot. So I think we've gotta be able to have a W that does its own thing on its own, I do.
So the W, but, so, okay, so the W can be alone, but whatever image we have, and the logo we pick with the W behind it, that can't be alone without the W.
Correct, those items would be tied to W.
That's together.
I see what you're saying,
but
yeah,
the W
absolutely.
can be taken out.
Correct.
Gotcha, I'm clear.
Same colors?
Yeah.
So
I
same
just
colors
same
on the
colors,
logo,
consistent.
same
Totally
colors,
consistent.
totally,
Yes.
okay. So whatever's on there has to be.
Oh, you had on yours, there was one that someone had a W and then wrote Raiders across it, right?
Yeah, the old.
That's the existing varsity W's.
I've
Mike
never
did.
seen that, I like this one they use.
Yeah,
I've
that's,
never
no,
seen
not
that.
this one. This was one.
W's they give out.
What version? I've never seen that.
Yeah, we used to have just a W,
This is on
and
the
then they
baseball.
incorporated
But
razor.
we never,
Yeah, that we got last week.
I
It's
never
more
did logos
fabricated.
like that. Those were the W's that went out to the kids for their jackets.
Correct, the original one is, I was
Just
just
for a
just a
W.
W,
Right.
Yeah.
Those Mike changed it to that.
the chenille W.
Right, we don't. Yeah, this one.
Well, it's, I wasn't how big it was in the magazine. I wasn't sure if it was just, W with a something across it.
So let me make sure.
Probably.
So when we wrap this up, we share it here.
Just one last question, am I doing one with the horse still, or are we totally?
Yeah, we might have to get rid of the first
I think I'm gonna do awesome.
Yeah, I think the horse left the barn.
Stayed in the barn.
It's a horse's.
But you
Out.
can tell the kids that if they'd like to be a horse, they can.
No live animal mascots there.
Oh,
We're not
that's
getting
true.
into that. We don't need to PETA people
Like the
calling.
army, I know.
I mean, like, it's one thing at a time. It's one thing at a time. We're curing problems, not creating them.
Do we need to have a different concept? If we basically narrow it down to, shield, helmet, W, and have a handful of different iterations of that?
I really like the colors.
It is what it is, right? I mean, it is what the process creates, so yes.
I feel like.
Well, I think we're
all
getting
like
like a plume, that
Oh, yeah, no one has iterations of these, but having just those as options right now, that's okay. Yeah, we'll just have.
Just wanna make sure we're not.
I see what you're saying. I said that, like, I feel like everyone's just kind of leaning more towards the shield and the knight, like, or just a regular shield, so the horse is just out of the question.
Are you sad?
No, I didn't like it.
Okay.
I mean, I liked it, but it was my first, like, pick.
So some iterations of helmet, shield with the W incorporated, and we have some different ideas about how to put that together.
Yes,
That's
so
for the
different
next
helmets,
round.
different shields, different relationships between them. That gives me plenty to work with, and I think also narrows it down to the point of being manageable.
Okay. Perfect. Any other feedback anyone else wants to share before we conclude? No? All right, awesome. So we don't have another meeting scheduled, so what I'll do is I'm gonna let Sherry take some time and think about this. We may go back and forth on email a little bit, if she was looking for feedback from folks or wants to get an image out, and you guys can, give her some thoughts offline. And then we will find a time in the next month or so to get together again and have another process like this. And kind of look at everything again, and we'll see how far we get at that point. And then we'll see if we need like a fourth meeting at that point. But anyone have any questions or concerns about process and timing? No, good. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
This is really helpful. It's been great.
Thank you, Sherry.